Hello guys, and welcome to a new WARNO video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I have for you game 1 of a best of 3 between Sotek and Mix in the quarterfinals of the Division 1 playoffs of the WARNO League. Today they are playing on Black Forest Duel, and on our left in the red team we have Mix playing with the 5th French Armoured, and on our right in the blue team we have Sotek using the 1st UK Armoured. Both of these divisions pretty strong. The 5th French has some really nice forward deployment units such as the AMXs. Also going to be utilising the Dragon Powder and Éclaireur in this case. He's also going to be starting with a lot of commandos. Now using helicopters on this map is really common because it's very deep. It's a very deep map. You start really far back, and getting helicopters to the front line is much quicker in a lot of cases than even using forward deployment. So that's why we're going to be seeing the commandos and the Pumas in this case. P4PC for capturing things. We've got the Éclaireur that's going to probably be keeping an eye on this bottom side, although this area doesn't get used very much on this version of the map because there's no sector here and there's no sector over here like there is on the normal Black Forest map, as opposed to this one being the dual version for 1v1. We have Sotek's units. He's going to be starting with 4 units of Terrier's Powder, advanced deployment. Looks like 2 of those are heading towards Alpha. We've got 2 heading towards the top side there. They're going to be backed up by the scouts with the Lore 80. The reason you bring the scouts to the Lore 80 is because the Lore 80 is a very good launcher, and so it complements the Terrier's Powder very well, which only have the Carl Gustav, which is also a good launcher, but not as good as the Lore 80. And so in this case, where he's got to deal with the MX-10s, it's a good choice. Then we got rifles coming up. We've got the Javelin LML there. Milan 2 coming in the Spartan MCT. The Spartan MCT does have its own Milan 2, so another nice choice. We've got 2 Javelin LMLs on the top side with the Track Rapier, 2 Warrior Milans, which are going to provide that 30mm autocannon fire support from the Radans. River CP going to be used to capture, and a Chieftain Mark 11 coming out at the start. Nice affordable tank that is, with a really nice gun. Like you get the 20 penetration gun for 170 points, which is really good. That's why people use them a lot. Anyway, you can see the commandos here in the Super Pumas actually beating the Terrier's Powder with advanced deployment to the front. That just shows how important these helicopters are. And Mix has managed to find himself a very nice position on this bottom side. He's managed to get his commandos into the town, and he's not going to be losing any of these Pumas. So what that means is he's going to be able to sell them and bring in some more troops with those points. And each of these costs 45 points. So it's not a small amount of money that he's going to be getting back there once those transports reach the spawn. Now, Mirage F1Cs have been flying around, and a really nice choice here to use them to strafe. These F1Cs, they do have twin 30mm autocannons, which is incredibly effective at strafing ground targets. You can see how effective they were even at units in cover. So, going to be coming back around, I assume, for a strafe on the scouts here as well. An absolute devastation for Sotek's infantry at the start of this game. The Éclaireur currently engaging the Terrier's Powder here. These Terrier's Powder further up getting picked apart by the MX-10RCs. There was a little bit of a back and forth there between the transports, but other than that, Sotek here in a pretty bad position on the bottom side. He's going to struggle to get this flag back. He's kind of lost control of his town already, which is kind of rough. The F1C there taking 2 hits from the Javelin LMLs, but not enough to take it down. This F1C managing to get away from the Track Rapier missile. Those Track Rapiers, they're not that great, mainly because they are a guided missile. And that means that when they get out of range, they are no longer effective, and they spiral off out of control. You can't keep the missile on track. AMX-10 going to be sneaking forwards here, looking for the shot potentially onto the Warrior Milan. Is going to smoke itself off, not risk being killed by that Milan HDGM. The IMX-10RCs, very fast armoured vehicle, but that's because they don't really have much armour. So you can see they only have 3 front armour, and therefore the Warrior Milan with that HDGM can potentially one-shot it. Jaguar coming in with the bombing strike on the top side, and that is going to take out an AMX-10RC there, so very nicely done. Jaguar taking a very low way out. That was pretty cool, actually. Diving very low and coming around the mountain there. But meanwhile, we can see that the helicopters have been sold for Mix, and he has opted to bring in an AMX-30 Brennus. He's got some AMX-10Ps coming up. We've got the Milan 1s, and we're going to see an abundance of extra units now arriving onto the field. Commandos here getting absolutely slammed by the Gazelle AH-1 rockets, so very, very nice use there of those. These are going to help finish off the Arcada as well. So we're now left with 2 commando units in this town. I'd like to somewhat see them consolidated so that they can have more effectiveness as a pair rather than being individual, because when they're on their own, they are susceptible to being picked off. Whereas if they're together, there's actually a good chance they might shoot down the Gazelle with their light arms fire. You'll see as this Gazelle AH-1 flies overhead that it's going to take a quite decent amount of damage from that light arms fire. Whereas if there was 2 nearby, that would be dead already. Anyway, AMX-10P going to be trying to get his 20mm on target of some of this infantry to provide some damage. But we are going to be seeing the unit go down here. Like the Terrier Padda there. Got taken out. Jaguar coming in again though with the bombing strike. Bit of a waste. Trying to kill off the commandos there on the backside. Since they were already low on health, I feel like that was a bit unnecessary. This Gazelle really playing with fire right now as it takes damage from the chasseur at close range. Would be unnecessary to let that die. Meanwhile, AMX-10 did go down in the center, so some nice back and forth, and the points have equaled out. So Mix taking the hill objective and this objective, while Sotek takes this one and this one. But I'm surprised that Mix didn't manage to really capitalize on his initial deployment here. It seems like these commandos just didn't really stop anything else from coming into the town when they probably could have with their LRACs. But now another bomber coming in, the Tornado GR1. These bombers that come out of the UK are actually pretty good. Like the Jaguar is super fast. The Tornado has a good payload and high ACM. So both really, really effective. And you can see there, he's just using them to pick off these infantry squads, whilst Mix doesn't have much AA. And you can see that Mix has been forced to bring up the Mistrals. Once they unload, they will certainly be a threat, but he's going to have to hit 2 of them on target in order to get kills. So MX-32 or 30B2 Brennus actually got taken out by the Terrier's Padda there. MX-10 being thrown in to try and take that out isn't probably going to last very long either, as the Carl Gustav can kill that at close range. Meanwhile, Mirage coming across, doing a very nice job of shooting down at least one of the Gazelles, but ends up getting picked off by the Javelin and LML. So really nice trades here actually for Sotek so far. And if he continues to build up the bomber fleet, he might be able to continue to run down the positions of Mix. But Mix has managed to capture this top side with the AMX-30B2, which is now giving him a +2 on the clock, and will put pressure on Sotek to try and take that back. Warrior Milan going to be going down in the meantime. Milan 1 is going to hit... Was that a... What went down there? It looked like something exploded. But the Chieftain Mark 11, I think, maybe just got hit in the front armor there by that HGM. Here comes the Jaguar. Once again, this time looking for a bombing strike onto the top side. It's actually going to completely whiff the MX-30B2 that I think was its original target. Meanwhile, nothing much happening on the bottom side. These rifles just here to protect the roads against potential flanks. Armoured rifles managing to get a cheeky kill there with the M72 Law. Killed off the Grenadier Voltigeurs before they unloaded, which is a big kill because these aren't too abundant. But the MX-30B2 going to be helping to damage that armoured rifle from a distance. Nicely done. Now, I must state that this is played on the previous patch. There has been a patch that came out recently, but because all of these games were played just after Christmas, the patch hadn't come out yet. I think some of them were played before Christmas as well, but apologies, I had been ill, so I hadn't got around to casting these. Regardless, AMX-30B2, the leader, has gone down. And now the Rover CP of Sotek going to be coming back in there to capture that. He's got to be careful. Yeah, he can't let that die before it captures it. That was very unnecessary. All he needed to do really was just drive it into the back, stop it, and then drive it back out again, and it would have been absolutely fine. Now the Law 80 on this bottom side, actually struggling to kill the AMX-10P, which is unfortunate. This Law 80 is 55% accurate, 20 penetration. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. 20 round per minute rate of fire as well. But in this case, not getting lucky, allowing the AMX-10P to slip by. Meanwhile, Assault Pioneers on the edge of the town, being really ripped apart by the fire support. But lovely bombing strikes, absolutely wonderful. Taking out the infantry here, taking out both the Milan 1s further up. Really, really good stuff. So these bombers putting in work, but it looks like Mix is still holding his position quite nicely. And whilst his forces are relatively thin, it looks like Sotek's are very damaged. These Chieftain Mark 11s haven't really been doing too well in the centre, thanks to those HDGMs. And all of the infantry engagements in this town have started to go in the favour of Mix, which is why he's been forced to bring in the bombers. Nice kill from the Chieftain Mark 11 though. The main gun on those things always sounds very, very cool. But P4PC now going to be moving in, looking for a cap onto this sector. Now if we look at Sotek's forces, he doesn't actually have a leader on the map. So this is a very dangerous position for him to be in, because it's going to allow Mix to capture this entirely, and he's not going to be able to capture it back for a while, which is going to bleed him quite a lot of points. On the top side, we have the Terriers Para engaging the Escorte, coming in with the AMX-10. It looks like the Terriers Para there, they'd run out of Carl Gustav ammunition, so the MX-10P free to fire at them all day long. Mirage F1Cs trying to catch up to the Tornado, probably won't make it, but this Jaguar, nice bombing strike onto the damaged Chieftain Mark 11. If it wasn't damaged, it probably wouldn't have died. Because it was, the HE bombs finished the job nicely, and it managed to get out relatively unscathed. This F1C also managing to potentially get away. Yep, the Tornado F3 not able to land either of its Skyflash missiles. Now the Jaguar coming in, another Jaguar HE bomber doing a lot of damage to that Challenger Mark II. Because the bombs are so concentrated and the Jaguar dives in like that, it's incredibly effective. And these tanks that Sotek is investing in throughout this game have not really paid themselves off very well so far. They haven't been able to find many targets at all. In fact, it's been mostly Sotek's infantry and the helicopters that he initially invested in, and also the aircraft that have been finding value for him. So now he's going to have to bring in supply that fixes up the Challenger Mark II if he's going to want to use it against the MX-30s. And that's going to be kind of annoying for him to have to spend extra points on this supply. You can see it is already on its way. But into the town we do have the armoured rifles coming in to potentially try and take back control of this town. And whilst he does kind of have control of the town, obviously he doesn't have control of the sector, and that is still going to be a problem for the foreseeable future. Nice little cluster strike there onto the MX-30B2. Another plane purchase though, and those cluster ones are not cheap. They are pretty effective against the lower armoured AMX-30s, as you can see, but I personally really feel like he needs men on the ground, because he's currently having a +4 tick against him and not really stopping any of these units from getting into this town. Now originally it was Mix who moved in here and didn't stop the reinforcements getting in, and now it seems to be the opposite, where Sotek, I guess he didn't really have any units to stop these voltages coming in, because the Assault Pioneers don't have AT, so they can't really kill the transports. So yeah, that's really, really difficult in this case for Sotek to deal with, and the Milan 1 going to get an easy kill there. It's really nice to see Mix using the Milan 1s in this situation rather than the Milan 2s, because he knows that the Milan 1s can one-shot these Warriors. And Warriors, they can pack a punch. They can do a decent amount of damage with their Raden autocannon. But they can be one-shot by these HGMs, and that it can be really, really rough. Now the Roland's coming onto the field, though, so things are going to get pretty scary for all of this aircraft that Sotek has invested in. There must be over 1,000 points invested into bombers for Sotek, and if Mix gets some good kills with these Roland 3s, it's gonna, or Roland 2, sorry, it's gonna really start to push Sotek completely out of this game, because that's pretty much the only thing he's got left to crutch on in order to bring back his positioning right now. And the Tornado GL1 coming in here for the bombing strike. It is going to do a decent amount of damage to the MX-30B2 Brennis, but the Jaguar doing a lot of damage to the Chieftain Mark 11 as well. The Jaguar did go down, so that was a nice kill. But will it be enough? The Grenadiers here actually managing to get close enough to the Gazelle to shoot one of those down. And yes, these might only be 20 points apiece, but getting these reloaded and reusing them is the difference between each of these having 1 kill and them having 5 or 6 kills for 20 points. So not reusing these, rearming them is kind of a waste. Anyway, Jaguar coming in there, looking for a kill onto another infantry squad. These Roland 2s have not been performing very well. The Jaguar are going to be getting out there scot-free. Grenadiers on the backside now harassing the Recon Gazelle as well. Bombing strikes coming through for Mix 90. Oh, what a absolutely awful double kill for Sotek to concede. That was a Challenger Mark II and the Chieftain Mark 11. And that was the Commander Mark 11 as well going down, which means that he still doesn't have a command on the front line. After, well, he did until that died. Now the Gazelle getting finished off by the Mirage there. Nice little strafing run. Another Challenger Mark II on the way. I'm curious why he keeps investing into the Challenger Mark IIs when HGMs are pretty effective against these AMX-30s. Like the B2 Brennis does have extra HP because it has explosive reactive armor, but the Infantry AT can do the job. It really can, because it's still only 10 front armor. And so HGMs and stuff are really, really effective, and there's no real need to invest into heavy tanks like the Challenger Mark II. Nice kills there for the Tornado F3s, taking out the taking out the Jaguar, and a cheeky little Alouette kill afterwards as well. So he's still getting value out of his aircraft, surprisingly. Although, again, that is 2 Tornadoes in the sky, adding to the total aircraft that he already has. He's probably bought like 2 Jaguars, 2 Tornado HE bombers, a Tornado cluster bomber, 2 Tornadoes AA. That's a lot of aircraft, a lot of points put into the aircraft, and you can see that he is lacking forces, to say the least, on the ground here, and that's only going to continue to be a problem as another Tornado now comes in, looking for these Grenadier kills. Now, in the long run, these bombing strikes can really, really hurt, because they can severely lower the availability of your opponent's infantry. But the Mirage F1C there, well-timed, takes out the Tornado GRHE, and that's just the first of many of these aircraft potentially falling out the sky. Now that the Roland 2s are in a better position, the MX-13s there, you can see that he's using the P4PC to buff them up veterancy-wise as well. And it looks like Sotek here going to be throwing in the towel. Honestly, I'm surprised at that KD, but maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not. As I mentioned, there was probably about 1,500 points invested into aircraft. So whilst Sotek was in the lead for kills, he wasn't really able to take advantage of those kills because he had no units on the ground that could take back the sectors. So yeah, an interesting one. Sotek really didn't need to use those tanks so much. I think he could have relied a lot more on Milans, a lot more on even just the Warriors with Milans to do the job against the AMX-30s. And then he would also have fire support to help deal with the infantry. He could use like Jeep Milans even. I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways to tackle this that was not using heavy tanks. So maybe if he'd invest into infantry rather than those tanks, that's like 2 infantry squads for a Chieftain Mark 11, maybe 3 for a Challenger Mark 2. And then you start to see these gains that he's getting from his abundance of helicopters and aircraft really start to take effect. But in this case, Mick's taking the win. Good job to him. Goes 1-0 up in this best of 3. We'll have to see if Sotek can take one back, or if Mix is going to go 2-0 and move on to the semis. I have to find out next time, because that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.